Okay, so ready to dive into this whole dopamine thing? You guys send in some really interesting stuff on it, and it seems like it's way more than just like, oh, I feel good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of amazing how much dopamine affects like almost everything we do. It's not just pleasure. I mean, it is part of that, but it's also about how we get motivated to work toward things.
It's like the fuel for getting things done.
Exactly. So today we're going to really dig deep into that, like how does this dopamine thing actually work? And more importantly for you guys, what can you do about it to get more done and just like feel better overall? Think of this as a cheat sheet for hacking your motivation, basically.
Love that. A cheat sheet for motivation. I think everyone needs one of those from time to time, right? So let's start simple. What exactly is dopamine anyway? I mean, I know it's like in the brain, but...
Right. So it's what's called a neurotransmitter. And basically what that means is that it's a chemical messenger, right? It zips around in your brain, sending signals between different parts. And those signals, they control a whole bunch of stuff like your mood, your focus, how you learn, even how you make decisions.
So it's not just about like those happy feelings you get when you eat chocolate or something.
No, it's way bigger than that. One of the biggest things it does is control motivation. Like when you set a goal, it's dopamine that kicks in and says, hey, let's go get it.
Okay, so I have a goal. My brain releases some dopamine, and suddenly I'm ready to take on the world.
Well, it's a bit more nuanced than that. See, the dopamine is released in anticipation of you achieving that goal. Like your brain's getting you pumped up beforehand, giving you the energy to push through even the boring parts of the task. And one thing that research you sent was super clear about is that the goals that really get that dopamine flowing are the ones that are challenging but still realistic. Like that sweet spot where you think, yeah, I can actually do this.
Makes sense. If something seems way too easy, it's not that exciting, right? And if it seems impossible, why bother?
Exactly. And it's not just about the big goal at the end either. The sources also talked about how breaking those big goals down to smaller steps is really effective. And the reason is every time you hit one of those smaller goals, boom, a little hit of dopamine.
Oh, I get it. So it's like instead of waiting for that one big reward at the end, you're giving your brain those mini rewards along the way to keep you going.
Absolutely. And all those mini rewards, they add up. It helps to create momentum and makes the whole process less daunting.
So it's not just about getting started. It's about keeping that motivation going. And from what I was reading in the stuff you sent, dopamine also plays a role in reinforcing those good habits, right? Like the more you do something and get those dopamine hits, the more likely you are to stick with it.
That's exactly right. It's like your brain learns to associate that action with feeling good. So let's say you manage to finally clean your desk, right? That feels good. Dopamine's released. And your brain's like, okay, cleaning the desk equals good feelings. Let's do that again sometime.
So it becomes a cycle. The more you do it, the easier it gets.
Exactly. It's like training your brain to be more productive. Now, that's all well and good when dopamine's doing its thing, but what about when it's not? When your dopamine levels are low, that's when things can start to feel really tough.
Yeah, the material you sent described that feeling so well. Like, even small tasks feel overwhelming, and you just can't seem to get going.
And that procrastination can be a real killer, right? It feeds on itself. Low dopamine, you procrastinate, you don't get things done, you don't get that dopamine reward, and it just gets worse. And in some cases, chronic low dopamine is even linked to burnout.
Ugh, burnout. No one wants that. So what can we do about it? How can we make sure we're getting enough of this dopamine stuff to stay productive and, well, not burnt out?
Luckily, there are quite a few things you can do to naturally boost your dopamine. And they're not complicated either. It's all about building good habits, things you can easily incorporate into your day.
Okay, lay it on us. What are these magical dopamine boosting habits?
Well, we've already touched on one of them, goal setting. Setting those clear, achievable goals and breaking them down into smaller steps, that's huge.
Right, because each small win equals a little dopamine boost.
Got it. What else?
Exercise is another big one. When you get your body moving, it really gets that dopamine pumping. Doesn't matter if it's running, hitting the gym, yoga, even just a brisk walk.
So getting that blood flowing is good for the brain too. I like it. What about food? I read something about certain foods that can boost dopamine.
Yeah, it's not that those foods contain dopamine directly, but they have the nutrients your brain needs to make it. Things like bananas, dark chocolate, eggs, almonds, leafy greens, and lean proteins like chicken and fish. So basically, eating a balanced diet can help with motivation too. Makes sense. Now, this might sound a little out there, but the research also talked about gratitude and positive thinking. How does that fit in?
Well, it turns out that focusing on the positive things in your life and being grateful for them can actually trigger the release of dopamine. It's like training your brain to look for the good stuff.
And who doesn't like a little more good stuff in their life? Right?
Exactly. And another simple one is music. Listening to your favorite music, especially upbeat stuff, can also give you a dopamine boost.
Okay, that one's easy enough. I think everyone's got a playlist that gets them going.
Right. And then, of course, there's sleep. Getting enough sleep is crucial because if you're constantly sleep deprived, your dopamine levels can take a hit. You need that rest for your brain to recharge and keep things balanced.
Makes sense. When I don't get enough sleep, I definitely don't feel motivated to do anything.
Right. And one more you might find interesting. It's a bit more intense. But research shows it can really boost dopamine. Cold exposure, like taking cold showers.
Cold showers. Okay, I'm not sure about that one, but I'm willing to try anything once.
Oh, it's not for everyone, but some people swear by it. Now, on the flip side, there are things that can mess with your dopamine and actually make it harder to stay motivated in the long run.
Like what?
Well, all those things that give you instant gratification, but not a lot of real satisfaction, like spending hours on social media, eating junk food, playing video games all day. They give you these quick dopamine hits, but then you crash afterwards and just want more.
So it's like your brain gets used to those easy rewards and then struggles to find motivation for things that take more effort.
That's exactly it. The key is moderation. Enjoy those things, but don't let them take over your life. It's about finding a balance.
So to wrap things up, it sounds like dopamine is this powerful force behind getting things done and feeling good about it. We've seen how it can help us set goals, stay motivated, learn better, and even build good habits.
And we've talked about all these practical things you can do to keep your dopamine levels healthy. Things like setting achievable goals, exercising regularly, eating right, getting enough sleep, and being mindful of those quick dopamine fixes.
Exactly. It's not about making drastic changes. It's about making small adjustments that add up over time. Even just focusing on one or two of these things can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And it's not just about productivity either. When your dopamine system is working well, you just feel better overall, more energized, more engaged, more excited about life.
So here's something to think about as we finish up. If you could consciously manage your dopamine levels, how do you think that would change not just your productivity, but your whole approach to life? What goals would you set? What challenges would you take on? What would you be able to achieve? And more importantly, what small step can you take today to get started? Just one little thing to nudge your dopamine in the right direction. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been great exploring this with you.